welcome to a series of very special Dublin International Film Festival podcasts. This year's festival runs from the 22nd of February to the 2nd of March and promises to be an elevated cinema experience. I'm chatting with director Kathleen Harris, whose documentary Birdsong is screening at the festival. Thank you so much for chatting with us. We're delighted to have you here. It's such a beautiful film. It is so evocative, unfortunately quite timely, with a strong environmental message. I think at the heart of it, your main subject, Seán, he's just such a beautiful, warm spirit. He's so passionate. It was a lovely, soft, enjoying film to watch, and such a visceral experience. Can you talk to me a little bit about where this came from?
Sure, yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Glad to be here. So I met Seán when I was a video journalist at the Irish Times. I worked there for many years before moving full-time into film. And my editor, the head of video at the Times, spotted Seán on Twitter. Seán had posted just a tweet about, or sorry, X, do we have to say X now? Seán had posted something about this project of his where he had set out to record the song of every bird species in Ireland. And Chris Mataloni, my editor, just thought that sounded interesting. And he said, check this guy out. So I went down to Killarney one day at dawn to meet Seán in the woods where he was trying to record a woodpecker. And I spent the morning with him and put together a video for the Irish Times. It went out and immediately, and it got a great reaction. When I met Seán, when I spent that day with him, I just thought, this guy is so interesting and he is so passionate, and I love the way he has with words, and his joy for the natural world is really infectious. And I thought there could maybe be a bigger project beyond just the short video that I did for the Irish Times. And when I saw the reaction that video got, I was like, it just kind of confirmed for me that, oh, there's something to this guy and the project that he's taken on. And then I approached Ross Whitaker with my idea of maybe doing a longer film about him, and Ross liked the idea. So we got together and made the movie.
I think this is something you do so beautifully. In you capture the depth and warmth of their relationship, the humor of Seán's relationship to his family and his friends and his partner, and that it's just and I think it's in such a lovely way. I think so many times when you're watching depictions of neurodiversity on screen, it's just this flat, almost very common and familiar depiction. But I think immediately I twigged. I was like, oh my, he's very into his birds. And then you're like, yeah. And then when you go through it, and I just think it's such a warm depiction of neurodiversity when, so often people associate autism with being cold, and it's not at all. It's just a difference in processing. And that warmth, that I just think it's a lovely snapshot, and just serves as a sort of eye-opening thing that people can watch to notice that difference. And was that something you kind of had planned to cover when you've gone in? Was that something that you that opened up as you were following the story?
Yeah, well, thank you for it's a lovely response to that. We're very happy that it came across that way. I mean, yes, that was a part of the story. That aspect of Seán was a part of the story from the very beginning, and it was very much something I wanted to include. It's just inherently a part of Seán, and it's very much a part of an aspect of why he does what he does, and how good he is at doing it. And it's just him. So to not include it would have been strange, I think. And, we did talk about how to approach it. And I know, my editor, Isolde Howlett, is who I edited the film with. And we had conversations about when the timing of it, when do we kind of address it directly in the film, and what do we include and what do we not include. And So we did want to approach it with great care, and we did want it to very much be celebratory, like a celebration of that aspect of Seán. Seán, and he has spoken about this. He was diagnosed later. He mentions that in the film, and it was a huge relief to him to get that diagnosis, because it helped. Things started to fall into place from his past. He kind of understood himself a bit better, and there was an explanation as to why he had certain struggles. And it was a he learned to kind of go from having he's learned to have a real appreciation for that part of himself, something that he used to see as a struggle, he now sees as an asset. And we really wanted to have that come across in the film. And, he has a hypersensitivity to sound because of his ASD, which means that he's able, I've been out with Seán and I'm not hearing anything. I can't hear anything. And he's like, oh, there's a this and there's a that. And his ear is just amazing. And not only can he hear any bird in the country and know what bird is singing, he'll know that it's a bird mimicking another species of bird, and he'll know all of the species that it's mimicking. Like, he's just got an amazing ear for it. And maybe he wouldn't have that acuteness if he didn't have ASD. And he's also got just this interesting, he's got an obsession with lists, and it's a project that's very much Seán and very much a part of the ASD is very much a part of it. And so we very much wanted him to be someone who, he loves the natural world, and we wanted to put that across. And he's also someone who loves his ASD, and we wanted to put that across as well.
I think Seán's story is inspirational in that, that's his escape, and it's such a positive way to watch him. And talk to me a little bit about, like the relationships with the friends and family. Can it be difficult to get people to talk and relax on camera as well, especially maybe if they're more introverted or nervous or anything? How do you build the rapport?
Yeah, I think, like, I always try to spend some time with people before I start filming with them. Obviously, in news, you don't always get that much time, but to sit down and have a conversation and tell people exactly what you're hoping to achieve, and tell them exactly what you're doing. And I know we did go to Seán's parents' house to meet them and film with them one day. It was the first day we'd been with them, and there was a crew at their house. And like I said, I'm not used to that. And there's such a difference, the level of intimacy you have. I mean, obviously, this kind of goes without saying, but you have a lot more intimacy with people when there isn't a crew there. And we did some filming, but it was stilted, it was awkward. And so I went back on my own at a later date to film with his family, and they were, without lights and mics, and it doesn't. Everybody was more relaxed and happy to chat, and we knew each other better then too. So it just takes a while to build up a relationship with people, and I do keep in touch with everybody, and we talk a lot. Seán and I talk every day, several times a day, and I've hung out with him and his partner Alba many times, and yeah, we just we've become friends, and I've become friends with his folks as well. So we've been filming. I've known Seán for almost 2 years now, so we know each other quite well. And you get. I'm very grateful that he's opened up his life to us like he has.
And talk to me about the process of funding to filming. So Comisiún na Meán funded the film. Was there any sort of did RTE come on board? Like, sometimes if there's a broadcaster attached at this stage, you're shooting it, the plan is to put together a film, maybe like in the pitch document is what you submitted, sort of what started to become the film in the beginning?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So we applied to the climate round of funding. So yeah, there was a special round. It was the first round of funding specifically aimed at films related to climate change, climate stories. And we approached RT with our idea, and I have to say, a lot of what was in that initial pitch is how the film turned out. Like, obviously there's some differences, but it is what we set out to do for the most part, I think. And we approached RTE, and they liked the idea and committed to the project as the broadcaster, because you need them on board to get the funding um, with the climate round that we went for. And yeah, we were lucky enough to get the funding, and we made the film with that was all the funding that we needed. We got it fully funded.
Amazing. And then to go into shooting, did you maybe have to do a proof of concept for a pitch, or was it a case of, I mean, really, you had already done that for the Irish Times. Presumably, you have all your bits and bobs that you could like. What is the almost like what's the process like of working through that funding?
Yeah, so I put together a treatment, a director's statement, how I wanted it to look and feel. I put together a summary and log line, all that. So like 1-2 pages on what the story would be. And I grabbed images from the stuff that I had shot with Seán for the Irish Times. I grabbed images from other films. And I did actually go out with Seán one day to shoot a teaser specifically for the application, because even though I had filmed with the Irish Times, the video that I did, the look and feel of it, I didn't think kind of represented what I wanted the film version to look and feel like. So I went out with him one day, again at dawn. Everything is at dawn when you're filming birds. It's very early starts. So I went out with him one day and just did couple of hours of filming with him, and I think it visually was more what I wanted the film to feel like. And yeah, submitted that along with the application, and it was a pretty we included as much information and visuals in it as we could. Lots of stills from other films, and I think it we wanted lots of beautiful landscape shots, and Seán small in the landscape, and sound was a big part of it too. So Seán gave me some of his recordings that I was able to include in the teaser. So there was a real emphasis on that there too. And yeah, we sent them on all those materials, and we're lucky enough to get the funding from that.
And how long was the shoot?
We ended up shooting over about 4 or 5 months, I think. We had the reason why we were kind of the birds dictated our schedule for the most part. I think there's with the species that we had to capture for the film, we were kind of nearing the end of Seán's list, so they were the tougher species to get. And if because of the Wildlife Act, to protect these birds, you have to have licensing to go out and film, and you're only allowed to film at certain times a year. So there were some moments where we had to film in March and April and May, and then later there were some birds that we had to get June, July. So we were kind of working on that schedule.
So the one of the things that I thought were really beautiful was, yeah, the depictions of the landscape, the shots. Can you talk to me about that? I mean, obviously, if this is what you do, you're very familiar with, framing, and how do you kind of work with the creating that visual imagery, and what's your creative relationship like with your DOP?
Our cinematographer was Ross Bartley. Our DOP was Ross Bartley, and he's very familiar with shooting wildlife. It's what he does on a regular basis, has done for a very, very long time, and he's amazing at it. And I was incredibly naive going into this. While I have spent many years shooting myself, I have never shot wildlife before, and it is different. It's really, really different. And kind of going into it, I had this attitude of, yeah, I know what I want. We're going to shoot these birds on these days, and it'll be great. And I think Ross was just sitting there going, no, not a chance. Are we going to get that bird doing that thing that you want it to be doing? So Ross had the foresight to, gosh, he must be one of the hardest working DPs out there. He really put a lot of effort into going back out, time and time again to try to get the shots that he knew that I would need, and the shots that I wanted. And he was really, really committed to it, and got some beautiful, beautiful stuff. And it needed a lot of this needed a lot of planning and a few tries to try to get it right. And then, there were some things that we weren't able to get, which I hope aren't too badly sorely missed from the film in the end. But
I think you would have to be Sean himself, maybe with that level of knowledge of birds to know, oh, they didn't get that bird. I think, like
yes,
as a
I hope
cinematic
so.
viewer, you were like, oh my God, those birds look gorgeous. And the sky is amazing. Like, honestly, I did not know we even had skies like that. I don't even know how you got to see that much
Yes.
sky in Ireland, in Kerry. It's normally just
Oh,
grey.
good. Yeah, yeah. No, we were very. I mean, we were very lucky. The amount of days that we went out on, it was sunny. It was on sunny days every day. Almost every day was a sunny, beautiful day with blue skies, and we ended up thinking, God, this film isn't going to look like it was shot in Ireland at all. It's not gray enough. So no, we were very lucky with that. And I met Ross early on and talked to him about Sean and the story, and gave him all the materials that I'd done up, the treatment and the director's statement and all these things, that you have to submit for applications. And so he knew the story and what I was going for, and then he was able to deliver such amazing, beautiful, lovely work. I was really blown away by the stuff that he gave us, and very grateful to him.
It's incredible. Like, it's that's what I think, going to see it on a big screen is definitely worth it, because I mean, Kerry is just a beautiful place anyway, but like the way the birds move in the sky, like it's actually amazing the coverage you had. I was like, is there stock footage?
You're talking about the murmuration.
Yeah.
That's in Loch Ennell. Yeah, so Loch Ennell is in Westmeath.
Okay. Oh, that's my terrible geography.
Oh no, that's fine. So the final scene in the film, and I have to say, like, if there's, so much of this, the scenes were hard to plan because you don't know what the birds are going to do, of course. Wildlife is a very difficult subject to work with. But the final scene in the film is something I had in my head from the very start. I wanted to include a murmuration in it. And Sean hadn't planned on recording, sound recording a murmuration. But I said, Sean, can you please just come up to Loch Ennell and we're going to film a murmuration and you can record it. And it ended up being he's going back out there this year. It ended up being his favorite recording from the year. So I'm so glad that we got to do it, and we got to do it thanks to James Crombie, who is a photographer. He does a lot of sports photography, press sports photography, but he's also he has his own project of just documenting, I suppose, murmurations in Loch Ennell. And he's done this. He has spent hundreds of days out there with the birds, and he just knows them so well. He knows the location so well, and he knows the birds' activity so well. And so I went out with James. James took me out to the lake before we shot it for a bit of a recce, I suppose. And he brought me to a couple of different locations where it'd be good to film them from, and where they were kind of murmurating at the start when I first went out there with him. It wasn't a very accessible area, so it wasn't going to be great for filming. It was kind of really over the water. And James said, if you wait until next week, the birds will be on the other side of the lake, and there's some good ground there where you can set up a camera. And he was spot on. A few days later, the birds moved, and we were in exactly the right spot, and we were able to get that amazing footage with Sean and Alba watching the murmuration. And Ross went out. I think the footage from that was shot over 3 days, I think.
It's such a powerful, like, such a powerful, and like the reaction is so lovely. Like, it is just like, and then there's no spoilers. Like,
Yeah,
they're
no,
watching
no.
birds, which
They're
is
watching birds. Yeah,
yeah.
they're
But
watching birds at the end, and it came out exactly. I mean, it was going to be such a difficult thing to get, and somehow we were just very lucky and well prepared, I should say, as well, and had James to guide us, and we got exactly what I had in my head, which is amazing.
fascinating. And tell me about the edit, because I think, I mean, you were obviously grabbing footage all the time. You're piecing together the story. I think it's good in the sense where there's sort of like a structure to the narrative, in the sense of this is a task that he's trying to achieve, which is clear.
Mm.
But Were you editing as you go? Do you wait to have it all, get fresh eyes, submit it to Isult and get it back? What do you like to do? Like, because you would like, and how different is that then to working on your own stuff?
I like to do out, I mean, we had a treatment for it, and I review the footage. I review all the rushes and kind of look at how that compares to the treatment, and do a new version of the treatment based on what we've shot, and just put together almost like a roadmap for the editor. Like, this is these are the scenes that I think would work. Here's like every scene that would this should make up the film, basically. And then in some cases, I will actually say, this is a line that I really want included, or this is a moment that I really want included. And depending on how much I care about how a particular scene goes, I might be pretty prescriptive with it, and say, like, this is how I'd really like these lines in it, and this is how I'd like this to go. But for the most part, that roadmap that I give the editor, just in a, like in text, in a Word doc, it's all up for debate. It's all up for discussion. It is just so that the editor doesn't feel like they've got nothing to go off of when they start the edit. So I sent that on to Isolt Howlett,
Who's an incredible documentary maker
who's
herself.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she just edited In the Shadow of Beirut, which was Ireland's entry to the Oscars this year. So yeah, she's amazing, and I had an absolutely great time working with her and hanging out with her at her home with her two daughters. She's great fun to work with. So yeah, I sent on, what my idea was, and then I gave it to her and said, okay, see what you make of it, and if you think this works. And she, I stay out of the editing suite to start with, and just let the editor work away on it. And eventually I go in and sit down, and we've spent many days with me actually sitting in with Isolt and us just working through scenes together. We kind of have a rough cut going in, and then there were a couple of particularly difficult scenes where because it was wildlife, and things just didn't always turn out exactly what we would have hoped for. There were some things that really required a lot of crafting, a lot of reworking.
And pacing is like a story that's sort of slow and character driven. Like pacing is so important. So I can imagine like there's such an organic flow to what you're trying to achieve that takes so much time and like in honing it and polishing it.
Yeah. There were definitely some scenes came together really easily, like the murmuration scene. Like, it was just, yeah, that's brilliant, great. And then other things, yeah, were tricky. And just we would sit down together and say, okay, what do we have to work with? What are we trying to achieve here? Um, and we just sit there, and it's a lot of just problem solving, isn't it? It's like, okay, well, if we need this information here, but if we include this, then we have this problem, so how do we fix that? And it was just a lot of back and forth and discussions and trying things out, experimenting. Isolde is great with being like, hey, let's try this and see if it works. And so there was a lot of just experimentation, I suppose, at moments. And we kind of, it's just it was an iterative process. We kind of edit, go in, re-edit, go back. And yeah, eventually we got to where we got to.
I think it's meditative in some points as well because it's so in tune with nature, and I do think there is that gorgeous flow. And Sean himself is such a kind of like soft, gentle soul that sort of plays into like the visuals. And I'm just, would that have been like a stark contrast to working by yourself, trying to get things off as quickly as possible, spending that much time? Like sometimes deadlines can make things much easier, when you're left with too much time and a load of like open-ended questions. Did you like it really enjoy that, or was it something you had to get used to?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it hasn't been completely easy to go from what I was doing at the times to this. Before is the times, it's very news videos, you're doing a lot of interviews, talking heads, and then pairing that with visuals. And you're not necessarily even the cutaway, I mean, it's called B-roll for, that kind of comes from news, I think. It is just there to kind of really illustrate what's being said in the interview. It's almost like the bulk of what you're doing is, the most important parts seem to be in the interview, not in the action. And then film seems to be the other way. You could almost, you'd like to just, if you can get away with no interviews, you would. And you just want to see the story unfold through the action, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So moving into this, like something you mentioned the pace, the flow of it. Something that was really important to me was for it to feel almost like that murmuration, or like it feels when you're out with Seán. Like there is a quietness to it. There's a slowness to it. You're just sitting in nature and listening. So I wanted it to move along like, a character driven story. I want to talk to Seán. I want to hear his thoughts on things. I want to see him interacting with other people. And then I want to see him taking a moment to just listen, and for the audience to just get to listen for a moment. And they felt like two different paces. So Isolt was amazing at, I had talked to her like this, am I trying to achieve two different films here? Where we have Seán on his mission to be almost kind of activistic, and he's giving talks, and he's meeting with, he's hanging out with his family, and that feels like one film, and then the wildlife side of it feels like another film. So we wanted to kind of blend those two things together, and I think the pacing of it, I was worried that it was going to feel seamless. But I think Isolt did an amazing job with combining those two things, where we're able to move along in the story, but take a moment here and there to just experience hopefully what is beautiful visuals along with beautiful sound.
And you get that sense of, Seán in his shyness when he's talking sometimes, or that introversion, and then when he's out there, how it's his realm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Like, that's, as a viewer, that's something that's really, really gorgeous to watch.
Yeah, he's really at home. When he even says it at one point in the film, like he prefers kind of hanging out by himself in nature than in crowds. Cities really stress him out, or large crowds really stress him out. And I have to say, he's really pushed himself to throughout the process of making this, to be with crowds and get up on stage and talk. And he finds that all really difficult, but he does it because he really wants to share this passion he has with other people. So, but yes, he's in his element when he's out in the woods listening to birds.
Gorgeous. And another thing I think that kind of feeds into that so much is, the soundtrack is just the sound mix in general is, and music and layering and birds. It's actually gorgeous. So talk to me about working on that and what that process was like. I mean, are you doing that while you're editing? Are you waiting until everything is locked in place before you can kind of get in with this?
Because of the film, because we really wanted an emphasis to be on sound, we started with sound. Like that's very much, that has been a part of the edit as we went along. We didn't edit anything and then stick in Seán's recordings and music after the fact. It was all done together at one time. So all of the wildlife recordings in the film are Seán's own recordings. And yeah, we really wanted to feature that as much as possible. And there's been Seán said to me very early on, he said, I've seen wildlife documentaries where there's a bird singing on screen, but the sound is not right. It's a different bird. And he says, I don't know how that happens. I hate that. That can't happen in this movie.
No pressure.
Yeah. But I was like, I completely agree, Seán, and we will do our best to get it absolutely right. And I had Seán review it specifically for those reasons. We want it to be we want it to be accurate. We want the correct species on screen at the right time, and then we want it to be beautiful. So we want both of those things in there. And so sound was very important from the very beginning. We wanted Seán's amazing, very good quality, beautiful sound to really feature it in a way and treat it with love in it, not as an afterthought, but as very much a starting point. So hopefully that comes across in it. And I would have liked to have even taken more time for some of that, but it is a TV doc at the end of the day, so we have only so much time to work with.
But people who want to see it first can see it on the 29th of February.
Yes.
Yeah, in the
Yes.
Lighthouse as part of the Dublin International Film Festival. So, are you looking forward to seeing it with a crowd? No pressure. Then is Seán coming and bringing
I'm
everyone?
so excited. Yeah, it'll be on RTE later this year, which I'm very excited about. But it'll be so amazing to see it in a cinema. It's really to hear the soundtrack, to hear all that beautiful wildlife sound, and to see some of this on a big screen will be really, really amazing. And Seán will be there. He'll be doing a Q&A after the screening, and so he'll be able to talk to the audience and answer some questions. And I'm very excited for him and his family to be able to see it on a big screen like that in front of a live audience. It'll be great.
Brilliant. Like, it's a gorgeous film. So,
Well, thank
29th, Diff in the Lighthouse Cinema, and you can get your tickets from diff.ie and make sure to see, because it's just gorgeous. So thank you so much for chatting with us. That was absolutely fabulous and a lovely watch.
Great. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
You can explore the Dublin International Film Festival programme and buy tickets now at diff.ie.